Hello, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the online edition of Dads at School Forum. Some of you might have been in our previous Dads at School Forum before, and this year things are a little bit different, but we are still going to have a great conversation. And the topic today is going to be about play, and we have a very important guest of honor with us today, and we're going to get into real good conversation with him, as well as a variety of panelists with different backgrounds. And so we look forward to your active participation. And to start the forum off, I would now like to invite Mr. Brian Tan. But before that, it's very rude of me. I first must introduce myself. My name is Carol. I'm very happy to be your host this morning for today's forum. And so now I would like to invite Mr. Brian Tan, who is the Chief Executive Officer for Center for Fathering, to open the forum this morning. Brian, please.
Good morning, everyone. First of all, I'd like to say a very warm welcome to this forum again. Thank you, our guest of honor, Dr. Muhammad Maliki bin Osman, Second Minister for Education, school leaders, parent support group leaders, father group leaders, and all passionate parents. You guys are the real family champions out there, and we thank you for giving us your time this valuable Saturday morning to come together again on this platform. The Dads at School Forum has always been this platform that we curate and we protect this time for parents and school leaders to really come together to have this conversation about how we can both partner one another to ensure a holistic development for our children. And most of you will know that when we get more involved in the lives of our children, specifically dads, our children tend to do a lot better in school. They tend to develop better cognitively, socially, psychologically, even physically. And we also know from research that when we're not as present in the lives of our children, they tend to be open and might even be more susceptible to things like depression, things like substance abuse and all. So we thank you for your time, and we thank you that you're making this commitment to come together today. At this forum today, we want to really talk about play and why it is important to us. We all know that play is really important for our children, but more importantly, I think we've come to realize that we as parents have sometimes forgotten how to play and the benefits that play has for us. So let's recall the times where we had fun, when we had that kind of carefree fun and liberty to do what we wanted to do, and how it made us feel and how it made the rest of the family feel. So we want to really have this conversation today about how we can come together to really just get back into that posture of play with our children, with the rest of the family, and to bring that joy and the laughter back that's going to help us thrive in this really challenging season. And we know that it's not been an easy time for many of you, for many families. The strains are there, the anxiety is there. Everyone is grappling to know what's going to happen next and how am I going to communicate it to the rest of the family. So we also want to share that we do have some resources at the Center for Fathering for you to have a conversation with your children about this current pandemic. We do have avenues for support, and even if you need to have a talk with one of our father coach, we are available at the Center for Fathering, and also through Dads for Life and Moms for Life as the movement, as the community that comes together in this period to render support and accountability for one another. So we want to, without further ado, I just want to hand this time back to Carol, the moderator, to just start off this process. And this day, because we have got really great panelists that has come together to share and emphasize the importance of play. We have Azza from Sports SG, we have Charmaine, who's a clinical psychologist, and we also have Mr. Kelvin Ang, who many of you know as Cheeky Monkeys, a really popular family blog here in Singapore. So now that we are into, we've just started the holiday season for our kids, let us hear them out and find ways to bring play back into the family. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tan. And it's my pleasure now to invite the Second Minister for Education, Dr. Maliki, to give us the welcoming address. Dr. Maliki, please.
First of all, thank you so much, Carol and Brian and friends at Center for Fathering. Panelists, parents, ladies and gentlemen, very good morning, and of course, welcome to the Dads at School Forum 2021. I'm very happy to be here this morning and meeting friends again. So thank you so much for inviting me to join you at this morning's forum. This forum held through FB Live this year due to the COVID restrictions and to keep all of us safe. And I'm very happy to know that we have school leaders, parent support group, and father group leaders, as well as interested parents gathered here to discuss issues pertaining to active fathering in schools and in the lives of our children. Into this fifth year, this is the annual forum, I understand, organized by Center for Fathering, to drive deeper engagement amongst existing father groups and promote the formation of new groups. And we've always wanted more groups to be formed. I'm very honored to be here to share with you my perspective as a father of two children. Although I must caveat that both my children are young adults already, so but I can share a bit more about what we had gone through. So we know that parents need to connect with our children to understand their strengths, interests, areas of improvement, especially in their social-emotional competencies. Equally important is the father's involvement in the lives of children. We have seen enough research both in the West and in Singapore that attest to the positive outcomes of father involvement in children development. So as a father, I try to have regular and open communication with my children to understand them and let them know that I'm always there for them. And I'm sure all fathers want the same for their children. My engagement is age appropriate. So as they grow older, they have changing needs. And so we will have to adopt different strategies, different approaches in supporting their development. I started my political career when my daughter was just 6 years old and my son was 3 years old. Today, they are 26 and 23 years old respectively. You can imagine what the last 20 years can be like as a politician father. So while I may not be home much for my kids, I always connect with them, especially with technology, when technology was available. Also, when they were growing up, being present during the key milestones are really very critical. Sickness, emergencies, soccer matches, performances, all these are important for our kids. And as a father, I make sure that I attend every one of them. I encourage my children to share their feelings with me, their worries, their concerns. I don't discourage them from crying if they want to. This means that they are not afraid to share their innermost thoughts and concerns with me, even on PGR issues. I was quite fortunate it didn't come too early. In the area of education, some fathers may feel that they do not have much of a role or quite unsure of what is the role that you can play. On the contrary, I think there is much that fathers can do. You can start by encouraging your children to explore their interests through school programs, through the CCAs, as well as sharing their own interests, your hobbies. You can also share with them your work experience in different industries as they consider different education pathways to pursue different possibilities, especially as they grow older in their education journey. Of course, being there for them when they prepare for major examinations is crucial. I recalled being home for my son's PSLE, and I know many people say, "Oh, it's the mothers always will take leave," but I took leave, and actually, I will fully recall that I actually had a minor incident during that time because I'm so anxious. He was preparing for his exams, and I just scalded myself with hot tea. I always remember when I tell my son that the marks that I have now is because of your PSLE. But these are the moments that you actually spend thinking and rejoicing during times when they grow up afterwards. So beyond understanding your children's strengths and interests, you can also play a critical role in their social emotional development through role modeling and including inculcating good habits, especially on a day-to-day basis, not just during the times where you are with them, on a day-to-day basis. how we problem solve, how we deal with challenges, manage conflicts and disagreements, even managing gender roles in households. These are ways we can model those behaviors to our children. I remember a quote very distinctly, and the quote says that the best gift a father can give his children is to love and respect their mother. So I hold on to that quote very, very closely in performing my role as a father. This year's theme, Fathers Are Game Enough, highlights the importance of play with our children in developing their social, emotional, and mental well-being. Fathers play many roles in their children's lives, such as provider, protector, playmate, comforter, cheerleader, counselor, and coach, and many more, I'm sure. Many fathers then focus on certain roles, such as provider and protector. However, I think we might have overlooked some of the other roles, especially as being our children's playmate and playing together with them. And that's the theme for today's session. Through playing, you can connect with them and build strong bonds. I can assure you that you let your children know that you are here for them and that you enjoy their company. At the same time, I think it is a good opportunity to equalize the power imbalance. Because sometimes children feel that there's a power imbalance between parents and children. So we can equalize this power imbalance through play, and that sometimes as fathers, we may not be as good in the game as our kids. And it's time for us to learn from them, rather than them thinking that they're always learning from us. Of course, through your interactions with them, you can also role model positive values, example, gratitude, resilience, encourage healthy lifestyle habits, and so on. A little goes a long way, believe me. Even till today, when my kids are grown up, I find ways to engage them with their interests in games and all. And believe it or not, now their interest is in F1 racing. I don't know whether F1 racing is a game, but they enjoy F1 racing. I never did. So I have to now learn from them the various aspects of F1 racing and sit through the 70 or 60 laps that the cars go round and round and round, trying to figure out what it's all about. But it's exciting whenever you are there with your children. So my son, however, still plays computer games at the age of 23, but continue computer games is beyond me. And certain things we admit. So sometimes I want to learn from him, he just admit, Dad, never mind, you just watch. So essentially as fathers, what we want to is really to journey with our children through their ups and downs. This starts with something as simple as interaction through play. It will go a long way to give our children the sense that they are important in our lives, and we want to go beyond education and studies to connect with them. So indeed, when we look at learning and growth, it all happens every day in our lives. We must be prepared to take every opportunity to help our children learn through life. And play is one of them. And one more point, play does not mean that as fathers, we only play with sons. We can play with our daughters too. Even if it means to play masak-masak, a father playing with dolls or in the play kitchenette shows the daughter that taking care, or the son too, that taking care of children and cooking are indeed the father's equal responsibilities too. So it's not just about playing your son soccer or basketball, play your daughters, the dolls and the kitchenettes too. It is very encouraging today for me to see educators, parent support group, father group leaders, and all those interested parents gathered here at the Dads at School Forum. This goes to show the extent to which the schools and parents believe in the importance of fathers' involvement in their children's journey. So I look forward to seeing more fathers be involved in their children's journey and be inspired to make more father-child interaction more achievable, more enjoyable, and celebrated in the community. And I look forward to the active discussion with the panelists and all those who are in the audience today. Thank you so much. Back to you, Carol.
Thank you, Minister, for sharing about your fathering journey and also your words of wisdom. I'm sure we would have a great discussion in the Q&A session. Now, let me introduce the three panelists formally. And thank you so much for the comments that are coming in. So thank you for watching. And as we hear the panelists share, do feel free to add in your comments or ask the question and we will pick it up. So let me introduce our three very special guests this morning. We have Mr. Azhar Yusof, who is the director of Coach SG at Sports Singapore, and he has been a national athlete, an international referee, and a coach in multiple sports. He was also the head of the physical education department at Raffles Institution before joining the National Institute of Education as a senior lecturer and assistant head teaching at the PE and Sports Science Academic Group. He is also a father of a 15-year-old daughter and an 11-year-old son. Thank you so much, Azhar, for joining us this morning. Next, I would like to introduce our next panelist, who is Ms. Charmaine Ng. She is a clinical psychologist and has been trained in both Singapore and in the UK. And she currently serves both the child and adult population at Zenith Medical Center in Punggol, caring for those with mental health and parenting needs. Thank you so much, Charmaine, for joining us this morning. And last but definitely not the least is Mr. Kelvin Ang. He is the founder of Cheeky Monkeys. Kelvin is a financial planner by day and a blogger by night. He is one of the Singapore's top parenting influencers, and he founded Cheeky Monkeys parenting portal in 2005. He is currently a council member of Families for Life, and he also serves in Community and Parents in Support of School, or COMPASS in short. He is also the co-founder of Daddy Matters, which is an online community of dads who want to be active and promote active fatherhood for everyone. Kelvin is also a father of 3 children. So thank you so much, panelists, for joining us this morning. And first up, I would like to first invite Azhar to share a little bit about his work and his thoughts in the area of play. Azhar, over to you, please. Azhar, I think you need to unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
Yeah. All right. Let's see, can you see my slides now?
We could just now. Now, not yet. Yes, it's coming on.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. And first of all, I just want to thank Dads for Life for this invitation. Games, play, sports are really things that are close to my heart. I am passionate about sports, so I love this opportunity to share. And I also want to commend Dads for Life for the many activities that they have, organized for many years now. And I want to just show this picture, and Minister Dr. Maliki, maybe this will bring back some memories from an event in
Yes,
2017.
there was
So
a
I
camp,
don't know.
wasn't it?
Yeah. So we were there, and maybe you don't recall because you speak to many people, but you did speak to my family and did speak to my son,
Oh, wow.
and he had a wonderful time back in 2017, and we want to do more of that, but unfortunately, maybe not at this current time. And as you can see from the picture, my family was there, and he had a really wonderful experience. Had his first powder bath, uh,
Excellent.
enjoy all the experiences, and of course, the bottom right picture when he got home, he was dead tired and had to recover for quite a while. But it's a wonderful experience for certainly him and me to bond. And yeah, I think we certainly want to have more of such activities to take part in. So I want to thank and commend That's for Life for doing that. Yeah, I mean the question today, right? Are you game enough? Are you game enough? And for me, it's really the question about are you game for life? Because life is really about spending time and playing with your children and much more. So for us, for me and my wife, life is an adventure. It is a journey of exploration. It's a journey of discovery, and it starts at home and it starts with the family. That's something that we strongly believe in. So if you're watching, this webinar live on Facebook, maybe you can put in the chat, your response to this. So if life is an adventure, Then who is your life coach? And who is your first coach? So Dr. Maliki talked about, parents being there for the key milestones in our children's life. So the key milestone first in every child's life for me would be the first time they say the first words, the first time they take that step, right? They walk, first time they throw a ball, the first time they catch, the first time they kick. So who would be their first coach? And for me, it's really my parents. So my first coaches are certainly my mom and dad. They were the ones who exposed me to different activities. And for my child, my two kids, my two children, when they grow up, I like to think that I am, and my wife as well, they are first coaches and active parents. So we have that's something we strongly believe in. And if you look at this collage, it really shows that even from the young age, my wife and I have introduced my kids to really different things, get them to discover new things. Son is now involved in wushu, is involved in gymnastics and football. My daughter is in gymnastics and also in dance. And they love outdoors. They love trying different things. So you can see abseiling down a waterfall, doing the eye fly, going for kayaking, going for wakeboarding. So I think this is the kind of play that certainly enrich their lives and something that all of parents can do. So then you might be asking, for me, I'm fortunate because I'm a trained PE teacher. I'm a trained coach, so I know what to do. But maybe for the rest of you out there, you may say, oh, okay, I'm not a trained PE teacher, I'm not a trained coach. So what can I do? Where do I start? How can I best engage my kids? How can I be a good first coach for my children? And am I truly there for Game for Life? So I want to share a little bit in the next couple of minutes what you can do, what you can start off with at home. So where do I start? I believe strongly that we can start playing anywhere, but play can start at home. And it starts with fundamentals, with a capital FUN. So that's something I strongly believe in. And I just want to share this. So if you leave this 15 minutes of my sharing, I just want you to remember the fun design, right? And it stands for F stands for fun fundamentals, U understanding, and then N is nurturing. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about what they mean. So when we talk about fun fundamentals, really start with play. Just play. If you don't not know what to do exactly, just go out there and play and have fun with your kids. But if you can, get into deliberate play, right? Make it set it up such that they are able to explore different things, and of course, make it fun for them. So when we talk about fundamentals in fundamental movement skills, we talk about locomotor, balance, stability, and object control. And you may wonder what exactly this all means, right? So your locomotor would include your walking, running, skipping, jumping, galloping, and so on. And then balance and stability is important in all sort of movement. So that includes the twisting, the bending, the turning. And then you have the manipulation or the object control, and that includes the throwing, catching, striking, bouncing, and so on. So these are the fun fundamentals that you can focus on. So get them to play activities that involves running, throwing, catching. So these are some ideas for you, right? The next one is engineer early success. So you don't have to tell the kids this, but if you're asking them to throw towards a target, if you make it very close, then you're engineering early success because they're likely to be more successful throwing into a target that's closer to them compared to further away from them. So as parents, when we design this deliberate play for them, when we set up these fun games for them, think about engineering early success. I think that will certainly make them want to play more, right? And finally, there you see at the bottom, develop ambidexterity. So that's something that I strongly believe in, that kids should be confident and competent throwing with the left hand, throwing with the right hand, kicking with the left leg, kicking with the right leg. So it's about developing ambidexterity. And you see that I've highlighted dex squared in the middle there. So you may wonder what it means. And DEX is really the acronym for Discover, Explore, and Experiment. So I think children learn when they are discovering new things, when you allow them to explore and you allow them to experiment. Doesn't matter that they fail, they're not so successful, but if you allow them this DEX or Discover, Explore, Experiment, there's lots of learning that can be learned. Yeah. And then the U, right? Understanding. So I believe strongly in the concept the approach of teaching for understanding, or teaching games for understanding. So when we get kids to play games, when we get our children to play games, they must know why they're doing what they're doing. So it's not enough for us to tell them, okay, you do this, you do that. They must know, why am I doing this? Why am I doing that? What will happen if I were to strike the ball a little bit harder? What happen if I were to point my toes towards the target? So they should understand why they're doing what they're doing, because then that really allows them to have greater understanding. So questioning techniques such as whys, hows are really important if you can ask those questions. Yeah. So really the idea of teaching for understanding. And finally, nurturing. So in nurturing, I said earlier about the importance of engineering early success. Yes, you want to make it challenging, but at the start, they will be very discouraged if they don't get much success or enough success. So set it up that way, engineer for that early success, and then subsequently you can challenge them with different levels of difficulty or different challenges. And I think throughout that whole fun and play experience, continue to encourage, right? Give them positive, give them praises, right? You can do general praises, and that's what we call general positive feedback. But if you can pick out some of the things that they did well, then provide that specific feedback. Or some of the things that they need to do differently, they need to correct something, then give that specific feedback. So the idea, I'm just going to recap, is the fun design. When you're playing your kids, think about fun fundamentals, think about understanding or teaching for understanding, and us being that nurturing coach for them, right? Praising them and encouraging them throughout. So that's something that I really would like you to take away from my sharing today. And for us, we recognize the importance of first coaches, and that's why we've rolled out for a year and a half now the My First Coach program, and recognizing therefore that parents are indeed every child's first coach, right? So and to the point earlier in my sharing is some parents, they will say that I'm not a trained coach, I don't know what I need to do. So that's where the program kicks in. It is intended to equip parents with the knowledge and skills to enable them to develop really strong fundamental movement skills, and to inculcate that active and healthy living, and develop positive character and values in the children as well. So the session is open, and I think after today we can give you links for which you can find out a little bit more about this. And this is typically what the parents go through when they enroll in this program. They learn about the fundamental movement skills, they learn about active health, they learn about the right values, and they learn about the fun design that I shared with you earlier, and they also learn about trees design. So these are some of the things that we share with them. And during our pilot, the parents really enjoyed this session, and they were all given homework. So I hope you can see what's on the screen now. And it shows the different activities that the parents were able to engage their children in. So at the end of each session, we get the parents to do homework. So they have to go back and they have to co-design and co-create games, fun and interesting games with their kids. So you can see on the top left, they created a game of kicking up a slope. So the ball keeps coming down, and then it keeps the game going, right? You look at the picture in the middle where the boy is using two different implements to hit up and down a plastic bag. So these are things that you can, have at home, easily available, and you can engage in play. So playing at a void deck, as you see on the right side, just running around, playing at the food court on the table, just modifying things. So play can occur anywhere and everywhere. So there are more resources, and if you check out our Coach SG programs and digital contents, and I left the QR code here, you will find lots and lots of resources that you can access to, can look at, in order to get more ideas on how you can better engage your children. Yeah. So we have a whole playlist of My First Coach videos, resources, tips, and so on. So do check it out. Again, the QR code is there if you're keen to find out a little bit more. And of course, in Sport SG, we also have the Active Parents page, where again, lots of activities, lots of resources. And during this June holidays, they are lining up a series of programs. So do check it out and sign up for the different activities. So that leads me to bring us back to this slide that I started earlier. Where do we start? What do I do? How can I best engage my kids, and how can I be a good first coach? So I hope the short sharing that I did earlier gave you some ideas on what you can do at home. And to me, the call to action is, what are we waiting for, right? After this, go grab your kids and start playing and start having fun. Yeah. So that's my sharing for today. Carol, back to you.
Thank you so much. It give us so much more ideas, so many more layers to play that we never thought of. And so now we don't have to worry about the June holidays not being able to go out to. There's so many things that we can do at home in such a fun way. Thanks for sharing with us, Azza. And now if I could invite Charmaine to give us her perspective as a psychologist, what are some of the elements or dimensions of play that we could also think about? Charmaine, over to you.
Hi, Carol. Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in this morning. Now, I wonder how many of you remember whiling away hours on the arcade on this. Now, some things don't change as children still enjoy games, but in a small, convenient package. I'm sure you find this very familiar. So, once again, I'm Charmaine. I'm a clinical psychologist from Zenith Medical Clinic, and I'm so excited to be bringing and sharing on this topic today. So, let's play. These are the areas that I'm going to be covering. First of all, what is play? What is it for? Play across the lifespan, the benefits of play, and also how to play. But first of all, I want to ask you this question. What do you think play is? Maybe spend a few seconds thinking about it. What is it for? What does it mean to you? So I'm actually going to spend a bit more time talking about what play is, because once you get the idea, I'm hopeful that things will become a lot more self-explanatory, particularly on the principles of play. Now, looking at the dictionary definition, we often think that play is not so serious activity, maybe even frivolous and something that is just for kids. But I believe this definition is incomplete. In my experience working with children, play is actually very serious business. In any case, not serious is not the same as unimportant. It's well established that children must play as part of healthy development. So through play, humans we learn, we grow, we bond. It's so much more of a process than just something children do for fun. Now, think of a sandbox. These days in tech speak, a sandbox is like an environment where users or developers can explore the limits and applications of a given environment. So in that thread, we can find that play is really the developmental process where learning occurs as a result of the child's freely chosen and self-determined activity. So this is a quote from, you can see the link at the bottom of the screen. Now, okay. So back to the sandbox, I want to expand our understanding of play. Freely determined means that there is no agenda, like I mentioned earlier, and far fewer limits than maybe you would have in school. So in a sandbox, we get to explore, we get to discover without constraint, we get to experiment and see how things work. So here's an interesting fact before we get into the bulk of what we want to talk about today. Did you know that the right to play is enshrined in the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child? Check it out, it's in Article 31. Another fun fact that you guys might find really interesting is that the ancient Romans' name for school is ludus, which means, yeah, you guessed it, play. So here we start to see play in a bit of a bigger picture, and I want to examine ideas that are really at the heart of what it means to play. So at the bottom of the screen, you'll see that he's a familiar figure to help us in our journey. Children today still play the same way we have all this time. It's maybe just the toys that are different. So if it's not broke, don't fix it. Mario came out in 1985, which makes him 36 years old, a geriatric millennial. Pokemon is not far behind at 25 years old. So while we may dismiss these things as childish, keep in mind that these worlds and games were developed by creative adult minds at play. When children play, it often takes the form of toys, games, masak-masak, dress up, pretend play, dolls, cars, dinosaurs, spaceships, Among Us. The things that we used to enjoy in SimCity, our children love in Minecraft. In play, they learn how to communicate with others, experimentation, remember the sandbox, especially games like Minecraft and like Animal Crossing, creating bonding. Now, in the adult world, it's actually not so different. And I'd like you to keep this in mind actually when we discuss the benefits later on. So, as Mario has changed with age, you can see he has morphed from this 8-bit wonder to this 3D vision. You know, so have our toys in adulthood in the form of hobbies and interests. When we experiment with kombucha or sourdough recipes, when we tinker with our cars and gadgets, design our homes, hone our crafts, and engage in hobbyist communities, we are continually practicing our communication, problem solving skills, learning new things, creating, developing relationships. As adults, I'm sure many of you still enjoy things like board games, puzzles, computer games, and sports. And you might ask me, Shamina, why are you spending so much time talking about adults? Well, it's very simple. If we can relate to our children's play, it changes our perspective completely on what play is and just how important it is for them to play. So remember the definition of a freely chosen and self-determined activity? Well, throughout our lives, we choose activities that support our learning. Just that as we grow, we become more and more independent in our decision making, and the nature of those activities change. So, play is not just limited to the familiar toys and games. And who among us during the circuit breaker maybe picked up gardening or spent time thinking about how to perfect your steak? Now, didn't we then look for books and videos and seek out people with common interests? We practice, we experiment, all to expand our knowledge in what are arguably non-academic subjects. And don't describe these things as this process as playing around. Now, through these experiences, we are learning, and so are our children. We might often complain that our children don't like to study, only like to play, they don't like to learn. But then again, you not only develop a skill through play, we are, without thinking about it, picking up concepts involving physics, chemistry, biology, language, humanities. All of these are not useless things, and maybe we don't learn them in discrete ways, but we do pick them up in the process of our play. These are the building blocks of what makes the world go around. When our children play, they're at the beginning of a journey. So maybe I give you a personal example. Maybe a memory of a time I spent with my dad. Everything I know about cooking, I learned from playing in the kitchen with my dad. Maybe these days I might be careful with the knife, or don't go too near the stove. But doing those things is something I can still carry with me today and into my adult life to look after myself. And during circuit breaker, I also picked up gardening. But I don't have a very green thumb, so I can kill cactus and succulents. But then it wasn't long before I found myself down a YouTube rabbit hole trying to wrap my mind around composting and soil types. So exciting. But I was fascinated when I observed myself in this process. I was fascinated by how such a small hobby took me to reading about how we feed our world and how we keep our soil alive. And really, it made me appreciate how play is all about starting small. And the fact remains is that our play has not stopped. Are you excited about this? I'm really, really excited about this. Okay, let's come back down to earth for a bit and look at some of the benefits of play. So, like as I was sharing just now, some of these examples, you can. But before that, maybe you can start to see how play is more of a process. It's so much more expansive than we would imagine. Okay, so yeah, like Azar said, motor skills and fitness, these are such big aspects of play, followed by emotional regulation. When they relieve their stress, let off steam, or when they play with others and they learn how to take turns or control their anger when there's a conflict. Social skills, they learn how to be responsible for others. When I play with other people, I need to be careful, make sure nobody else gets hurt. I need to communicate so that everybody understands the rules of the game. I build relationships when I play with my mom and my dad. I also develop cognitive skills, logic or abstract thinking, depending on the activity. And ultimately, all this is also about brain development. As our children grow, all the aspects of their brain are growing, including practical skills that are like the things I talked to you about just now, like gardening, personal development. Now, this includes soft skills like resilience, perseverance, problem solving, risk management, self-esteem, and confidence. Now, you might ask me, Shamin, where do you find risk management in play? Well, have you ever seen a child hang upside down for the monkey bars and see how long they can hang out there? And you're like, oh, maybe you should come down. And we start to freak out a little bit. But when our children play and at times get hurt, they start to realize, hey, these are the boundaries of what I can do, what is safe, what is not safe. Followed by intellectual and cultural benefits, such as discovery and learning about other cultures and arts, language, creativity, and curiosity. Now, all of these are soft skills that we cannot pick up from school. We cannot pick these up from books or, just watching videos or doing sedentary activities. We really need to go out there and actually do these things. And notice how even though we put these concepts into nice little boxes, these are actually enormously beneficial also to our mental health and well-being at both the individual and community level. Now, I left the best for last. I must not underestimate the importance of fun and rest in the learning process is the last point at the bottom. When we have fun and we enjoy each other's company, we actually grow relationally. And rest helps us to recharge for things in life that are less fun but still important, like homework on subjects that we don't really like, or having to sit down to file a taxes. All right. So if I've managed to sell you on why play is just so important, let's talk about how. So I was a bit cheeky and I also came out with acronyms. Singaporeans, we like acronyms. C, A, N, E. Yes, sorry, it's a bad joke, but if you laugh, you're going to remember it better. Now, first one, C, stands for child-led. Many parents worry that they may not understand or have a hard time catching up with trends or what kids these days like. But remember, what did we just learn about play? It's something done for enjoyment or recreation and also freely chosen. So let your child choose, and your role is to play a more supportive, guiding sort of stance. Now, you don't have to be too up to date or try too hard, or you'll end up looking like Steve Buscemi in this well-known meme. Learn from them as much as you can, but don't worry if there are some places that you just can't get it all. Remember, you are a parent, not a peer. And the peers will probably be much better than you at keeping up anyway. And they play a very different role in your child's life. Okay, leading on from that is age appropriateness. Just like Dr. Malika is talking about his age appropriate ways to connect with his kids, even at an older age. So whether they are neurotypical, or have special needs, or otherwise, it's important to meet our children where they are at. Older kids, for example, they need less physical support and are more independent, but they'll probably still need a lot more support in the area of emotional development. It's important to play around and see what your family needs, what your child needs. After all, every child is different. One 12-year-old is not like another 12-year-old. Okay, so what's next? And no agenda. You've heard us say this quite a few times already. Having an agenda really defeats the self-determined and freely chosen part of the definition of play, and it actually ramps up pressure for the activity to be productive or want to achieve something. Now, let it be natural. Let them lead you. Now, the only thing on your agenda should really be to play and have fun with your child in the limited time that you have. By all means, set appropriate boundaries, but that's about it. Let it be free and easy. Now, keep in mind that this is a skill that all parents have to develop. We may get easily caught up in certain thoughts of our own What should play be? Is this good for my child? Am I helping? Am I hurting them? But it's really a process, it's a skill. The last point is about enjoyment. This is the most important one. Being present, trying to make it fun, and enjoy your children. Enjoy your children and let them enjoy you, right? It's kind of like when you think about it, maybe a personal example, if you're going out with your spouse, right? You don't always love the activity, but you go because you love them. Like Dr. Maniki watching F1 with his kids, or when you see all the dads hanging out in shopping malls with their wives who are enthusiastically shopping for shoes. Okay, so that's the almost at the end. Let's summarize. First of all, play is a process. It's freely chosen. It's self-determined. Play is also a lifelong process that doesn't end when we grow up. Play is also beneficial across a wide range of domains, and it is clean, child-led, age-appropriate, has no agenda, and is enjoyable. So I hope you took something away from that. Here's my contact details if anybody is interested to find me, and thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much, Charmaine, for sharing with us so many benefits and so many ways of playing and how it impacts our children. Thank you so much. Next up, I would like to invite Kelvin to share from a father's perspective. I follow you on social media, Kelvin, and I know I see so many different things that you do with your children. Perhaps you could share with us, what do you do as a father?
Thanks, Carol. Thanks also, That's for Life, for having me. Okay. Let me bring up the slides, please. Okay, thank you. One disclaimer first. Unlike the previous two speakers, I'm an untrained professional. So, basically, I'm just sharing my experiences, and I'm a fellow parent like you. And a lot of times, me and my wife, we just learn as we go along. And because, like everyone knows, right, there's no parenting manual, and we make mistakes, but I think the important thing is we learn from them, and then we go again. So just something about me. I have 3 kids and 1 wife. And back in 2005, when my eldest son was just born, actually my wife started the Cheeky Monkeys blog. And it was at that time, because 2005, there wasn't WhatsApp, there wasn't Facebook, there wasn't Instagram, no TikTok, right? So a blog was actually the only means where we could share photos, especially because I have relatives living overseas. So that was a means of sharing with them. And when my wife went back to work after maternity leave ended, I took over. And because I'm someone who really can't sit still at home, I think if you put me with my kids at home, they would drive me nuts lah. So I'd rather bring them out and let them use up their energy outside. So when I bring them out, I bring them to the playgrounds, I bring them to the parks, to the beaches. I began sharing on my blog with fellow parents on the places where we hang out come the weekends, the school holidays. And I think the thing just snowballed from there and evolved into a portal where thankfully a lot of parents find it useful, and they come to my blog to look for ideas and activities to do with their kids. So actually in 2015, I published a book. It's called Got Kids Go Where. It has a list of 500 activities to do with kids in Singapore. And 2017, it was republished as a second edition, and I updated it and added another 50 activities. Next. So, okay, yeah. So this is basically also what Charmaine had shared previously, rather comprehensively, the benefits of outdoor play. I'll just briefly run through them, because I think sharing about my own personal practical experience is more important and it's more relatable. Well, one of the benefits is that playing outdoors will improve emotional, intellectual, and behavioral development. Because, as we all know, right, kids work better in groups when they're in the great outdoors. They're not bound by the four walls, whether is it at home or in the classroom. So they have a fuller sense of freedom. So playing outdoors can improve emotional, intellectual, and behavioral development. And those learning outdoors, they tend to develop their creativity, problem solving, independence, confidence, and more attributes. As well as studies has also shown that playing outdoors have proven to reduce stress in young learners, because outdoor learning can improve our mental well-being as well as physical and emotional. And studies have shown that learning environments with a greater number of plants, greener views, and access to natural play areas demonstrated a lower level of stress in kids. And speaking of natural surroundings, bring them outdoors will allow them to love and appreciate, our own natural surroundings. Because I believe that always humans have natural biophilic tendencies, which means that we all have the innate desire to seek connection with nature. So when we are deprived of these opportunities, negative outcomes may follow. So learning outdoors can also, inspire kids to become physically active in their spare time. And this will also have a knock-on effect in their later part of their life, because it's a great tool in fighting against the risk of childhood obesity. As well as practical experiences translate to broader benefits of problem solving, thinking skills, and teamwork. When we bring kids outdoors, whether is it like looking out for certain type of bugs, creepy crawlies, even leaves, or even butterflies, or even using a compass to navigate, a trail. All this outdoor learning, it gives practical and real world experiences that kids love to soak up and learn. And because as well as learning these specific skills, right, outdoor activities have broader benefits such as problem solving, thinking skills, teamwork, and all this will feed over to to the more academic aspects such as math and English. And lastly, and I think that's the most important point, is that it makes it more fun not only for kids but also parents. Because like I've shared earlier, bringing kids out is also a form of stress reliever for me, rather than keeping them cooped up indoors. So bringing your kids outdoor to explore will not only energize them, it will also allow parents to bond meaningfully with their kids and create conversations and memories. Next. Okay, so now for the practical examples, how do we im- uh, have playtime in a COVID world like this? No, of course now we have to stay indoors more than going outdoors. So for indoors, right, these are just some of the suggestions that I've actually me and my wife have done with our kids. So during last year circuit breaker, or even during this period now, we make it a point to plan meals together. So we come up with a meal schedule where certain meals that, okay, some meals they want to tap out, they want to eat fast food, or even they want to eat instant noodles. Fine, we let them make a choice. But I think this engages them and empowers them, and makes them feel that they are involved in the process. And we also have movie or game nights. So we have designated nights where we sit together around in the living room to watch movies, or even we play games together. In fact, during the last circuit breaker, we started playing Among Us before it became popular. So yeah, so I think it was a really fun time to bond together, even though we had to remain indoors. Exercising together, yeah, you can put on some. There are plenty of workout videos, whether it's kickboxing, aerobic, or even stretching, even simple like stretching exercises that the whole family can do together as well. And one of the fun things that we do is we turn daily chores into games, like a mopping, like who can mop the floors in the fastest time, or who can mop the floor in the cleanest. So we turn this very mundane household chores into games, as well as we organize friendly competitions, like okay, two of my kids versus two parents, or three kids versus two parents, to see who can cook lunch, and then we'll do the taste test after that. And one of the things we also did last year was we repainted our living room. So we can think of minor home improvement projects, like even fixing up a cabinet or fixing up some small furniture, and you can involve the whole family to do it together. As for outdoors, well, before the phase two heightened alert phase kicked in, we made it a point to actually go outdoors. I bring my kids to the park every Sunday or Saturday. And if you have younger kids, right, you can actually you can actually bring them to various playgrounds around Singapore. So this week it can be at the park at the playground at Admiralty. The next week it could be the one at Gardens by the Bay. And a lot of times you can even find lists of all the playgrounds in Singapore, and then you can let them pick. And one thing that we also love to do is we fix a weekend routine. Like when they were younger, we always Saturday we always would about 4 p.m. we'll bring them out to a playground near our place, and then after that we always eat prata for dinner after that. So up to now, when my oldest is already in Sec 4 and my youngest is 10 years old, they'll always remember this routine that oh, prata. So prata actually brings back memories for them because they remember that from young they went to the playground every Saturday, and then after that we will have prata after that. So I think small things like this, the memories like this actually really that the kids they will really remember for life. Exercise together, like playing badminton or cycling, and of course, all kids always love when you give them the power to plan for something. So for one weekend, you can also let them take charge and plan for a weekend activity that they would love to do. And if you're outside, for example, if let's say you're going on a trail, you can even do an impromptu outdoor scavenger hunt, where your kids collect items from nature. Like, okay, who can find me a heart-shaped leaf? Who can find me the thinnest twig? Things like that. So I think it will make the trail or even the walk less boring and less monotonous. And hopefully they would be game for the next trail as well. So at the end of the day, I think my mantra has always been the same when they were young. I always love to create memories as a family, whether is it outdoors or indoors. And I think a lot of these suggestions that I've just mentioned, they are free. They cost nothing to do. They just need your time input. And yeah, so that there's no stopping from any parent from actually doing all of the things that I've just mentioned. Yes. So one of the regular feature that one of the regular activity that we picked up after circuit breaker was actually our regular family hikes. So we when after circuit breaker I started to bring them out to various parks in Singapore. So we would do so once every weekend. But my two of my kids, the older kids, they're already in secondary school. So the usual parks tend to get a little boring. So after one or two times, they were showing signs of resistance, and they the time comes for us to head out, they will always say, so sian, it's nothing to see anymore. So that's why I started looking out for off the beaten tracks. So these are just some of the tracks that the trails that we have been to, like a Singchu Quarry. I'm not sure any of you have know of them, but these are actually places in Singapore that are actually abandoned, but they are not out of bounds. So don't worry about being fined $300. So all this so the first one is the Singchu Quarry, which is located behind Gombak Station. This used to be part of the quarry where the Little Guilin and the Bukit Batok Quarry were, and now it's disused. So it's a relatively short trail to find this quarry. Second one is the abandoned Bukit Batok Hillside Park. For I do not know for what reason was this park abandoned, because this park actually, if you go in, you can see remnants of a well. You can even see stone steps. You can even see a shelter. But all this they are all overgrown with weeds and vegetation already. So if you're looking for something that's adventurous, I think this is the one to go for. And near Queenstown, there's actually near Dawson Estate, there's actually the Kasiang World War II bunkers. There are 3 bunkers there. You have to trek through the forest to find them. And I think this was actually one of the best experience that my boys had, because they simply love bashing through the jungle. The last one is pretty accessible. It is the Mandai T15 trail. This one I think is marked and is actually under NParks as well. Next. Next, please. Thank you. So I'll leave you with this quote, and I think it should be known to most of you that this quote from Albert Einstein: "Play is the highest form of research." And I've always lived by it. I've always this quote has always stayed with me as my kids grow older. I've always searched out and try to find different ways to engage them through play, and I believe it has. I would like to think it's worked out pretty well so far. Yeah, so hopefully it would, and I hopefully that more parents would embrace play, and not think that play is just wasting time, and see it as a means to bond with their kids in a more meaningful way. Thank you.
Thanks, Kelvin. We have had so much more ideas and all the heights that you shared. So exciting. Makes me want to like go out and explore with my children as well. Now we go into a time of question and answers. I would first like to thank many of you who have contributed your questions into Slido. We actually sent out a link to invite questions as part of the publicity of today's forum. And I want to thank many of you who have contributed, and I'm going to bring some of these questions to the panel. So let's get started. The top question that came in was about how play impacts a child's development. And I believe Charmaine covered some of it and Azza covered it as well. And I think many of the parents are also very busy and more stressed, especially during this season. And so the key question really is, what kind of play is the most helpful for my child? If I have to prioritize, right, of all the benefits that we have heard, all the different kind of activities, right, how would you advise very busy fathers and mothers on what kind of play is most effective? Perhaps I could invite Charmaine to address the question first, and I would invite Azza after that. Charmaine, please go ahead.
Thanks, Carol. Wow, big question. How does play help a child's development? What kind of play is most helpful? Actually, okay, I already talked about all the benefits, right? But what kind of play is most helpful? I would say is the play that your child wants to play. And in this digital era, as few screens and devices as possible to make the most out of all of the benefits. And as much variety as you possibly can. You know, in health education, right, we learn that there's a triangle about how much we should eat of different food groups. I would say at the top, the few things that you don't want to eat so much is the computer games, and at the bottom are all other kinds of games and any other kind of play that you can do. It's really, really free for all. Most importantly, it's what your child will do.
Azza, your
Hi,
thought?
yeah. I agree fully with Charmaine. I would also add that yes, whilst it's good to have the games be and the play be child-centered, and therefore they can decide what they want to do, but they may not know what to do about something that they've never experienced before, and that's where I think it's also an opportunity for us to just get them to do different things so they discover, they explore and experiment, as I said earlier. Carol, you mentioned about parents being busy or don't have time. I like to think that we can squeeze in 5-10 minutes of time in every single day, and I think that may be just enough for the kids to get excited, and then maybe they go off and play on their own. So it's really exposing them to a variety of activities. So it's not about what kind of play is most helpful, but engage them in different types of activities, and they will find something that they really like and they want to pursue a lot more. They want to engage a lot more in, and that's where okay, they are more interested in this, maybe I can do a little bit more of this, but not forgetting that they should be exposed to things that maybe they have not done before. And Kelvin, the idea of bringing them to different parts of Singapore, I think is really a wonderful one, really exposing them to different things and experiences therefore.
Thank you. Asa, if I could follow up with related questions. When we talk about family playing together, from your experience and your studies, do children and parents, adults play differently? And do mothers and fathers play differently also? Yeah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's a good question. I like to think. I mean, we're all familiar with the term. We are all young at heart, right? And there's a kid in us. Even no matter how old you are, there's always a kid in us. And I think when you engage in play together with your kids, it's a lot stronger. And of course, you can bond together. And I just want to show you. This is a newspaper ball that I did with my son. So it's just about getting old newspapers, and then you get masking tape, and then you wrap it up together. My son is now crazy about football, and he watches Champions League previously, and he said, "Dad, can we buy a Champions League ball?" So we went down to the mall and we look at the price of the Champions League ball. It's ridiculously expensive. So we designed another paper ball, and we put stars on it just like Champions League ball. So I saved $70, and I saved having to pay for broken windows, because when you kick paper balls, it is quite friendly to the things that you have at home. So it's really about playing together with the kids. And as to your second question about moms and dad, are we different in the way we play? I know my personality is such that I take risks. I'm a bit of a daredevil, so my kids know that I will try adventurous stuff. But my wife is a little bit more or less daring, or doesn't like to take too much risk. So it's all down to individual differences. But play is still something that moms and dads can bond with, can enjoy, and play together with their kids.
Thank you. Thanks, Azhar. Kelvin, what are your thoughts on this question?
Well, I think I agree with what Azhar said. I think really it's a matter of perception of risk between moms and dads. Not to say obviously moms are averse to risk, but I think that's because I think we may have the benefit of because being through NS, so we know what exactly what kind of risk entails. So I think when it comes to play, obviously, like for me at home when my kids were young, we like to wrestle, we like the rough and tumble kind of play. But for with my wife, obviously a different form of play comes in. So I think both sides really complements one another. There isn't a hard fast rule where say one is better than the other. No, I think both mothers and dads, their role in play really complements each other, and is equally beneficial to the formative years of a child.
Thank you. Thank you. The next question has got to do with perhaps some sense of busyness again. Must play always be with the child? I think we have been talking about doing things together as a family. The question is, must it always be together with the child? Can I let my child play while I guide by the side, or just stand a little bit back and let them do more individual exploration? What are your thoughts? Perhaps I could invite Charmaine to weigh in first, and then Azhar. Charmaine?
Hey, so I mean, as we were talking earlier, right? It's not just it can be individual, it can be in a group. We actually learn differently individually when we don't have other people to worry about, versus when we play in a community. Of course, I would encourage you to play as much as you can with your children, because maybe one day you will not have so much time to play with them, or they may not be so interested to play with you anymore as they become older and peers become more relevant. But definitely, there is scope for you to let your child play and guide by the side.
Thank you. Azhar, your thoughts?
Yeah, Carol, I agree fully with Charmaine, and I like to also add that sometimes the kids want to play on their own. They don't want us to be involved, right? And that's fine. So they can play on their own, and they can play together. But sometimes they really want us to be there with them. And it makes the activity a lot different, or takes it to the next higher level when you are playing with somebody versus you're playing alone. So I think the we should be engaging and allowing them to do both. The benefit of us kind of stepping back is we are able to observe them. We are able to observe what they do and their behaviors and their actions, and maybe we can point out certain things to them that we can't really see if we are immersed in the game with them. So there are benefits of getting the kids play on their own. There are benefits to us playing together with them, those are bonding and so on, and also stepping back to observe and then give them guidance, give them feedback. So I would say do a mix of different things.
Thank you for sharing. The next question has got to do with differing perspective of fathers and mothers. Again, come back to the question. So there are differing expectations or perspective or method even of playing, and sometimes there's disagreement on how to play and what to play. And so, what can we do? And perhaps this question I will invite Dr. Maliki. Now that your children are adult children, how has your experience been in terms of negotiating perhaps some of the differences between you and your wife?
Well, this is just a personal experience. For me and my wife, we started from day one telling ourselves that whatever we do, we don't disagree in front of our children, because we don't want our children to see and take advantage of differences and say, oh, mom says this, and then it goes to that, dad says that. We try our best to agree in front of our kids. And if we disagree, we make it a point to disagree respectively so that our kids learn how to manage differences. But as far as possible, even if my wife says don't play, but I think can, but I will tell my kids don't play. Because at any point in time, we feel that we should try to come as a united front and understand each other's perspective at that point in time. Then later on, we go back behind our closed doors in the own bedroom and say, okay, let me understand a bit more about why did you say to our son not to play at that point in time. So to me, it's a way of trying to balance between telling our kids or teaching our kids the unity of parenthood. When we parent our children, we parent them with this idea that both mom and dad agrees on certain decisions that are to fit to us is useful for the kids. At the end of the day, we don't want a situation where our kids try to pit mom and dad against each other, as it were. So in terms of deciding on what games to play, what the kids can do and not, number one is before we allow it, we have our own discussion back door, and then behind closed doors, and then we cannot decide subsequently after that. Try not to show too much differences in front of our children because I think that might not be healthy. But even if there were differences, it's modeling how to manage those differences at that point in time.
Thanks for the reminder to stay united. Thank you. Charmaine, any thoughts on this? Is there like a psychological perspective to managing differences in front of our children?
Well, I'm not sure I have much to add, to be honest. And I agree with Dr. Maliki in that, even though it's good to present a united front, sometimes we really cannot help but we may really disagree in front of our kids. But I always say to parents, it's okay because it's bound to happen. We have to anticipate that we are going to disagree in front of the children. We need to also then use the opportunity to model to them that, hey, we can disagree. How can we disagree? How do you safely navigate a disagreement? And this also comes up in the process of play when, especially Monopoly, famous for starting fights. What should we do? How should we do it? It's really about modeling, conflict management, how to agree respectfully.
Thank you. Thanks, Charmaine. How about Kelvin? When you go for your hikes, are there differences between you and your wife, for example, or any other activities?
Actually, this question is similar to one question which I answered last month when I was at a personal finance festival. The question was about finances between young couples. If one is a saver and one is a spender, how do we manage both perspectives on money? So I think this is very relevant as well because this is instead of money is on playtime with regards to the kids. So the answer is essentially the same. I think we can't. I mean, since the couple, I don't think we can't expect the other to change. Definitely, and I think it's a matter of mutual understanding of one another's perspective and coming to a compromise. So, for example, if to go back to the savings part, so what I suggested is, for the spender, you just have to limit yourself. Okay, I set aside $300 every month I want to spend. So beyond that, okay, obviously we would have to discuss whether is it a need or a want. So for play, it's the same. So if let's say one spouse wants to allow the kids to play video games, so we both can come to agreement where we set a threshold. Okay, perhaps Sunday we just give him 30 minutes of playtime, and any beyond that is dependent on how much work he did or how much constructive work that he did outside of screen time. So I think this form of compromise, I think I hope it makes lives easier for both parties, and I think along the way it's really a touch and feel kind of situation where you have to balance both ideals and perspective, and mutually respect one another's points.
Thanks, Kelvin, for sharing. And I also want to thank those of you who are commenting actively on our Facebook page. I appreciate all the comments and the questions that have come in. One is on technology, which I would raise later. And there's one comment that says, for a child, love spells as time, Time. So I guess no matter what differences we might have as daddies and mummies, from a child's perspective, when they spend time with daddy and mummy, to them, even if it's either playing together or side by side, to them they still feel very loved. So thank you for the comment. And at this point, perhaps just a very short commercial break, since we are talking about differences in fathering and mothering, that there are workshops that are available at the Center for Fathering. And my colleague will be putting the links in the comment. We have I Can Fathering for fathers to discuss the heart of the fatherings. And there are also workshops that are open to both fathers and mothers. I want to also honor all the mothers that are also taking part in the Dads at School Forum today. For both daddies and mummies, you can participate in the parenting, the growing years. So for children in the teenage season, and also parenting the teen years. And so come and have a conversation as a couple, and we can discuss and negotiate the differences so that we can stay united. As Minister mentioned, that it's important for us to stay united so that our children can thrive with consistency. Yeah, so the links are in the comment section, so feel free to check them out. There are upcoming workshops available. And if you can stay throughout, stay with us for the rest of the conversation, at the end of this live session, there is going to be a promo code that's available for you. We have got very kind sponsors who are sponsoring these workshops for us. So stay until the end, and there will be a promo code towards the end of the conversation. Okay, so the next question is again related to busy parents. I guess at this point, fathers and mothers are all very busy and tired. And so the question is, both my spouse and I work, and by the end of the day, we don't have enough energy left to play. So can we just leave play to the weekend, which means Monday to Friday, don't play so much. Like Saturday, Sunday, then we chill and go hike. Does that work? And what would be the panelists' comments? Perhaps I could invite Kelvin to share from your perspective, because I believe your wife works as well. So what are some of your experience?
I think we just have to alter the mindset of what is play. Play time to a lot of kids actually just means spending time with them. It can be just reading a book together. I mean, play doesn't mean you really have to bring out all the toys or play a game over the game console or over a com. No, playtime means just really spending time with them, and that time has to be meaningful. It's not a time where okay, even if you bring out the toys and then you just sit beside and you're just scrolling through your handphone, checking emails, that's not considered meaningful playtime with them. So so you just have to find certain pockets, and the activities involved do not have to be very energy consuming. It can be just sitting down, even just sitting down and just talking with them, and just talking in a very fun manner. That's considered playtime, because that stimulates their mind, and is also engaging them in to let them know that to show them the concern. And one thing I like to add is actually, I think a lot of misconception among parents is that they are worried when their kids get bored. My kids have nothing to do now at night, so how? Then I have to find things for them to do. But I think since my kids were young, I've always believed that it's fine for them to be bored, because it is when they are bored, then they try, then they become imaginative. They find things to have unstructured play. And I think that is very critical in shaping their mind and character as well. So it's cool to let them to be bored once in a while, and you don't always have to try to find things or means to keep them occupied.
Thanks. If I could press in on that a little bit more, do your children, for example, say I'm bored, and then naturally go and grab their phone or grab their iPad or tablet to still play? Right? They're still playing with their friends, or could play with you. And how do you deal with that? Is playing video games considered play?
Sorry, again, is what?
Is playing video games considered play?
Playing video games is considered play, yes. But okay, because I mean, now they are older, it's easier to talk to them, and it's easier to, they probably understand that obviously spending long hours on the phone is not healthy. But I think for younger kids as well, because last time there was already iPad when my kids were young, they can't grasp it yet. So a lot of times when you take away, then they are upset. But from young, again, I think there was one comment by Mervyn, right, who talk about that. So one way that actually I not say enforced, but I shared with my children was that for we we we, we introduced the concept of consume and create. So when we are playing games on the iPad, we're watching YouTube videos, that's consumption. We are consuming the content. But creation is you create something on the digital device. So from young, what I did with my kids is that for every 1 hour of consumption, you have to repay it in creating something on a digital device. So when we are done with playing 1 hour of their games, then they spend time on YouTube, for example, learning a new skill, like learning how to draw, how to uh, how to cook even, or watching videos on how to do Excel. So my second son actually now his Excel skills are even better than me already. When I need to do my Excel work, right, I engage him to do it for me because he has learned that all through YouTube. And I think the balance of this consumption and creation is very important on how we approach digital devices. It's not a total blank out because I think that can never happen in today's world. So we have to embrace it, but we have to find ways to make it useful in our lives as well.
Thanks, Kelvin. Great tips. I think I need your son to help me with Excel. Yeah, thanks. Shamin, if I could ask you in terms of child development, and we are talking about online games and playing online games, are there any differences in terms of playing online games versus playing games in real life or physical games from a child development perspective?
Oh, yes, of course. I guess the most obvious one is that on a digital game, we are quite sedentary. We are not moving, whereas when we are playing games in like playing in the playground or running around, we are moving around more. But these days, that you can actually still do a lot of things in the digital world. As you know, Calvin was saying, it has to be a balance, right? There are a lot of amazing things that we can do with video games, and it's not say good or an evil thing. It's a tool. It's a tool that we have to think about how we use it, and also be careful not to spend too much time on that, such that we lose out on other things like looking after our physical health. I understand that many parents are very busy, and often video games and things like that could be one of the best ways to connect with your child. And that this isn't a hard and fast rule. You know, this isn't a hard and fast rule. And I don't want parents to feel guilty, like, oh, I always have to use my phone to babysit my child. Um, I don't think that kind of guilt is very helpful. But what we want to do is to be more flexible about it and make sure that it's not the only thing that our children are doing, rather than have a blanket rule that all parents must follow. I think what you need will be very different for each family.
Thanks, Charmaine. Azza, what are your thoughts from a coach perspective, right? I remember your point was actually parents are the first coach. Is there any difference and how do you balance, find a right balance in terms of encouraging and coaching our children in play? What are your thoughts, Azza?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Carol. I think I earlier on you asked about parents being busy, and I think that's something that we all recognize. We're busy, we work, we come back tired, and may not have the energy, so to speak. And I think all of us parents will agree that, yeah, I mean, as far as I mean, I consider myself fairly fit, but somehow the kids have got more energy than us, right? They're like the energizer bunnies, right? Don't know where the energy come from. And if I wanted to share, there is some guidance from the World Health Organization, and that is children between 5 to 17 should be engaging in about 60 minutes daily of physical activity that are of moderate to vigorous intensity. So it's an accumulation. It's not one time in one sitting you engage in 60 minutes of play, but you add them all up in a day. So I agree very much with what Kelvin shared earlier about gamification. The idea of even mopping, you can make it in the competition. So essentially what you're trying to do is you gamify the normal things that you're doing. So it doesn't have to be a sporting activity necessarily to be deemed as play. But if you start gamifying the different things that you do, then that's part of play. There's a lot of interaction going on. As to the online sort of game versus the actual physical game, Yes, there is some things that you can gain online. I know my son sometimes go and play online games, and I'm amazed at his reaction speed, his hand-eye coordination. I keep crashing into things, but he's always able to avoid things. So there are benefits to those kind of games, but those online games doesn't allow for interaction with another person, another human being. And if you want to talk about the development of social, emotional, and socialization, you need to be playing with somebody else. So I think that's something that will be missing if you just do online games. Also, when you do physical activity or physical games, there is also that kinesthetic awareness and kinesthetic development, and all the what I mentioned earlier about the locomotor skills, the balance and stability. You can't get that via the traditional online games or video games. I know these days you have, like, for example, the Nintendo Wii, right, where you hold out the joystick and then you pretend as though you're playing badminton or playing tennis. So at least there is some movement involved, there is some physical activity. But I would say it's a balance, right? And I say if the child is interested to play video game, yeah, a bit of time with that, but don't forget the physical activity, don't forget the physical game. And again, back to Kelvin's point, right? There are many things that we can do at home, the household chores that can be gamified to make it play, make it fun.
So is there such a thing as too much play? Since play is a process of learning, right? So the child can come and say, I want to play because I also learn social skills through playing. Even when I play online, I'm playing with my friends and there are thinking strategies, I'm using my brain. So how would you counter those arguments that sometimes perhaps some of our children actually tell us that I'm making friends, I'm connecting with people. So what are your thoughts? Kelvin?
Yes.
Uh, Obviously, as with all things, everything has to be in moderation, right? Even when we eat, when we do certain other activities, everything has to be taken in moderation. And obviously, when a play becomes too much or when it causes conflict among spouses or even between parent and child, then that's an indication that is getting overboard. So I think from young, the kids needs to understand that yes, play is important, but there are other responsibilities, such as his own academic work is important as well. So we have to we have to teach them that the balancing of both these responsibilities are part of life. And I think even for adults, I mean, even for adults, sometimes we also feel lazy, right? Sometimes you just, okay, I'll just play this game for just 5 minutes, and we just procrastinate and leave the work aside for a minute or so. So I think it's a matter of teaching them from young, and it's a matter of inculcating in them that play is important, yes. And when it's time to play, we really play. We really put in the effort to play. And but when it's time to do other things like study, we also put 100% effort. And that's how we can maintain a balance in life.
Thank you. Thank you. Azhar, sorry, I think you wanted to say something just now as well in terms of the balancing of play.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm an educator, and I am a trained PE teacher, but also trained in teaching physics and math. And even when I was teaching physics back in school, I always infuse play in the teaching of that subject. So I always begin my lesson with an experiment. So it's play. You put three race cars together down a track. So it's play, right? But is the learning is, okay, what's the principle behind what they see in terms of the car racing, in terms of slipping and sliding, so you can talk about friction. So I think you can teach different things, and that's really the multidisciplinary approach. And it's all play. So I think when you make learning fun, even if it's I know people always complain about math, and it's not fun at all. But if we can make it fun, and having that multidisciplinary approach, and like what Kelvin said, you can go outdoors and you can do scavenger hunt, and you can do some mathematic related games. So they don't really see it as math, they don't really see it as science, but they just see it as play. But there's all this learning as well that's involved. So I think that's something that we can think about and we should be aware of when we're engaging our kids.
Thank you. And the next question is also talking about balance, I guess, and also about our own parenting. So the question is, my parents never really played with me and emphasized more on studies. So how do I go about, loosening up this style, because I'm also impacted by my parents parenting on me, and how do I loosen up now that I need to parent my child? Perhaps since it's relating to studies, I could invite Minister to perhaps weigh in on this question. Minister?
Thank you, Carol. I think it's for a start, young parents, for that matter, we learn from own parents, but at the same time, acknowledging the fact that we are raising children at a very different time. We therefore need to be able to adjust what's necessary and how our children need to be raised, looking at the context of which they are in. When we were raised, our parents raised us in a certain manner. There are not much alternative at that point in time. Study, 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 and our own parents' understanding and awareness of what it means to strike a balance with play and studies is probably much more limited than what we do know today. So I think we must acknowledge the fact that our kids are growing in a very, very different environment. As such, as all the guests have been sharing today, there's much that you can blend between play and learning. I would say studies, but really learning about life, learning through life, and play at the same time. So I think it's useful for parents to continue to look at and explore different ways in which their children can learn through different activities in life and play at the same time. But having said that, I agree with the panelists that we also need to ensure that we put some structures in the lives of our children. Because if it's just a totally free for all, then at some point in time, you wonder if the children will be able to pick up certain necessary skills in understanding what structures mean. Because when you go into an adult world, there are structures in place too. There are certain responsibilities you have to perform, and these are issues that has to be trained or even brought up early in life. So that the balancing act, the learning is something that parents have to be there with their children, at the same time ensuring that there are certain structures in their lives that they need to be aware of, timetabling, waking up at a certain time, how much time you have, contracting between certain activities against another activity. These are things that we need to be able to work with our children. But more importantly for me is really when we parent, it's not so much parenting our kids, but should be parenting with our kids. Because it's their life that we are also trying to structure, it's their lives that we're trying to make better. And I think we should see our children as partners rather than assuming what our parents' mantra would be at that point in time. As a parent, I know best. But I think in today's world, we can't assume that as parents, we know best all the time. And therefore, we should also at some point in time assume that our kids know best in certain aspects of their lives too. And we must be prepared to learn from them.
Thank you, Minister, for the advice. Yeah. Kelvin, I wonder whether you have any thoughts also about balancing or the style of parenting for the parent who asked this question.
I think the important thing is, again, there's no right or wrong answer, but if it's pertaining to how do you loosen up your this sort of rigid parenting style that you were used to when you were a child and with your child now, I think one way you can try out is bring your kids to the playground. Because that's where I think most kids will love going to the playground, and that's where the joy will comes in. And then when you see the joy on your kid's face, I think naturally you would you'll feel happy as well. And when you feel happy, you will want to join in. Be it maybe holding their hands across the balancing beam, or when they're doing the monkey bars, you're just following them underneath and trying to see where hoping to, I mean, in case if they fall, you catch them. So I think these are being involved in the kids' moments as well, rather than you just sitting at one side on your handphone, right? So when you're being involved like that, I think over time you will loosen up and you would start to engage your kids in play. And when you see them play, you will sort of pick up, that you will sort of understand and pick up the various play characteristics that your child has. And then when it's next time when you go to the beach, when there's sand, then I think you have a better understanding of how to engage in that play moment with your kids as well.
Thanks, Kelvin. There are quite a lot of comments in the Facebook chat relating to technology. I think that's very understandable because now we are in a situation where we can't go out as much and there's a lot of home-based learning. And I think many parents are very thankful that finally school is over and they can do something else. But many parents also may not know, what else. There could be a season where our children are spending more time online for learning purposes. And perhaps I could ask Minister, what encouragement would you give to parents as they really need to spend more time online? And naturally, some of the kids would want to relate to their friends and naturally flow towards playing games together. So they're still playing. In fact, I think they are playing more than what parents would like them to. Or they might flow into other messaging platforms and play other games and things like that. So what encouragement, Minister, would you give to fathers and mothers in this very exceptional time where we are trying our best to balance play, and we know the benefits of play, as we heard from the panelists. At the same time, really there's a need to go more into the online world. Minister?
I think first and foremost, we are into the holiday season, and I always encourage parents, if it's school holiday, let the student enjoy the holidays. Let them do normal things that they do during the holidays, albeit now given the current COVID situation, what more can we do to help them? So if during the holiday season, what do parents normally do? Some parents actually also spend some time taking some of their annual leave to be with their children. I would encourage them to do so. It doesn't mean that just because your kids are at home now and they can do whatever, then you don't have to take your leave to spend time with your children. If you traditionally make a point to spend time with your kids during the school holidays, please do likewise. In fact, now you might want to do a little bit more because they are at home. There's a lot more that you can do together with them. Two is really the online space is something that we have to navigate together. And as adults, as parents, I think we should continue to allow the children to explore, at the same time, figure out how to help them explore it. Where are the boundaries? I think we must help our children understand the boundaries of where the social media spaces is, because there are some unintended consequences of overexposure to social media, to the internet content. And I think as parents, it is incumbent upon us to play that guiding role to make sure that our kids understand. Sometimes it just takes a bit more to get them to reflect on their own experiences. So it's not so much don't go in there, but give them the guidelines. But if they happen to be in there, you must be aware they have just started going into certain spaces which are a little bit more challenging. But I think as parents, you need to be prepared to then engage them in telling them where are the spaces that they should and should not be going into. Engagement with friends is equally important. So therefore, allow them to connect with their friends. Now, not necessarily via gaming all the time, phone calls, Zoom calls, whatever that they need to do. It's useful for them to remain connected with their friends, and parents remain connected to their friends' parents too. So the parent support group must continue to grow, must continue to be engaged. And I think these are the kind of things that you can continue to ensure that the holiday experience of our students during these difficult times remain as interesting, as enjoyable as it is, as much as possible. It's not easy, because it's not easy to keep up the spirit in such very difficult times. But I can tell you there are many, many things you can do. Even they're just watching TV. Today, my children work from home. I do work from home too, so I come back home much earlier than I usually do, because I cannot do community activities in the evenings. So we watch Netflix, we watch View. I suddenly realized the kind of movies they watch, the kind of shows they watch, and you learn from them, the kind of things that they are learning from those spaces. And you begin to appreciate the journey that they're traveling to. I think these are the kind of times that we can spend with our children, learn more about them too.
Thank you, Minister. And Azhar, would you have any thoughts in terms of how we can balance the online and offline world in terms of play? What would be an encouragement to parents?
Yeah, it's always gonna be a balance, right? So it's not so much perhaps necessarily how much time, given that with the home-based learning, the kids are on the screen a lot more than maybe in the past. So the question is more about what are you doing online? right? Not so much how much time sometimes you're doing online. I know there are concerns about too much blue light if you're on too long on devices and all that. But the blue light actually is even out there when you're going outdoors, there's blue light from the ultraviolet rays and all that. So again, it's about scheduling, it's about time management, it's about making sure that it's a balance, not too much on online space. And I know sometimes, unfortunately, now there are some dangers on the online space, so we need to also be careful that our kids don't go down that path when they are not supervised, obviously. But yeah, I mean, as far as games is concerned, I'm fine. My kids sometimes go and play all the different games, but there are limits. They don't like spend the whole day doing it, and yeah, moderation, I guess.
Yes, indeed, moderation. And I think we have actually all of us here taking part in this forum already stared at the screen for more than an hour and a half. Maybe it's the time for us to also find that balance. Just look outside for a bit. Is it raining outside? Take a vision break and really find that balance ourselves as fathers and mothers. Yeah. Kelvin, if I could ask you, I believe you also serve in a parent support group, and many tuning in could also be supporting the schools as parent support group leaders or ex-school members or parent volunteers. What are some of your encouragement to PSG leaders in terms of how they can continue to support schools? Because the way that parents engage schools now is very different from the pre-COVID times. So what encouragement would you give to PSG leaders and ex-school members tuning in?
Actually, I think the important thing is for PSG leaders is, I think, firstly, I think is I know it's a very tough call to balance both, the schools perspective as well as the parents' views, because I think PSG leaders are always somehow stuck in the middle where, because the parents would want the schools to do more, and then they'll feedback to the PSG leaders, as then the schools would say, no, no, we are constrained by certain amount of things. But I think I think because right now because of COVID, a lot of things that PSG wants to organize have to be put on hold or have to go online, to go virtual. Yeah, like you said, I'm on a PSG as well, and I tried to organize activities for dads in my son's school. But we were actually intending to do hikes, to do outdoor activities. But obviously, with P2HA is curtailed, and now we are shifting it to virtual. And a lot of times, I think a lot of parents would say that, oh yeah, we don't have enough activities for the kids, we don't have enough bonding activities, parent-child bonding activities, and then they would maybe want the PSG leaders to do more. And while I understand the parents' concern, I think a lot of times PSG leaders would also, I hope the PSG leaders would also take heart that, because there are parents like this, there are parents who genuinely wants to bond with their kids. That's why they're making that request. And a lot of times, hopefully, with these things blows away, more parents are actually. In fact, when I wasn't on the PSG, let's say I think 3 or 4 years ago, and I was just volunteering, right? I was the only dad who, when it comes to events, right, I was actually the only dad who for, let's say, for kids, the kids events, the rest were all moms. But I think just 2 years ago, when I was also volunteering at an event, actually I saw a lot of dads. I saw a lot of dads who took leave to volunteer for their kid because they want to see their kids for the sports day, they want to see the kids for their performances. So I'm very heartened by that. And I think PSG leaders can actually tap on this, because I think that actually a lot of dads who wants to be more involved with their kids now more than ever. Yeah. So other than the mummies, yeah, I think that's are really really willing to make the step up, and also be more involved.
If I could follow up with another question, Kelvin, some of the dads might think that I don't have time for it, I'm busy enough, I don't have energy. So what would be your encouragement for very busy fathers to come alongside and be more involved with fellow fathers and to participate in school life?
I think firstly, I think you have to, I mean, you do not have to fork out the time first if you really have you're busy at work. But I think it's good to go into a network of dads, of like-minded dads in that school, in your kid's school, so that be it over a Facebook group or be it over a WhatsApp group, so that you're in tune with whatever activities that happen in your kid's school. and whatever happens, at least you know, and you can actually ask your kids about it. And so it's basically you can start a conversation with your kids as well, and the kids will understand that, hey, actually my dad actually is knows what's going on, what activities is coming up next. So I think that's a start when you do not have enough time. And beyond that, you can actually fork out, just you do not have to attend all the activities in the school calendar year. You can just make do with one activity. And I think a lot of schools, they are actually organizing a lot of parent-child activities at least once or twice a year. So just make the effort to the time to set aside time to sign up. And a lot of time, I mean, obviously in times like this, a lot of things are virtual. So we're all stuck at home. We got nothing to do anyway. So we just can spare that 1 hour to do to do something with the kid for an online activity.
Thanks, Kelvin. Minister, we have heard a lot about parents. Actually, many educators are also fathers and mothers, and also trying to balance all the different demands of full home-based learning. Thankfully, there's a break now with June holidays coming. What would be your encouragement to educators who are also doing their best to include play and then while balancing all the different demands of work? Minister?
Well, thank you for giving this opportunity to thank our educators for all that they have done. You're absolutely right. Educators are parents themselves, and they are also faced with many different challenges because of the recent home-based learning. Fortunately, this time round, we are more prepared than we were last year. And I think the 2 weeks of home-based learning has gone very, very smoothly this time round. So all the educators, I think, my advice is you are no different than any other parents. So therefore, be the parents that you are during these school holidays for your children too. Yes, you will continue to have to do the work that you have to during the school holidays, preparing for the next term. But at the same time, wherever you can, spend that time with your children. Play as much as you can. There's so much tips from everyone this morning, and I agree with Kelvin's point earlier, that I personally have seen a dramatic change in the way we see fathers' involvement in the lives of our children. So our educator fathers, I'm very sure, would also acknowledge the fact that there's so much more that they can play. And I think there's a lot of opportunities for them to also show how they can strike the balance between the work that they are doing, the studies that they want their kids to do, at the same time fitting in space and time for play. And play in itself is a space for learning, and it should not be seen as just totally dichotomous between play without learning and studying. That's where learning takes place. So I think there's much that our educators can continue to do. I want to give a shout out to all of them for all the hard work they've put in during the past 1 year. And I'm very sure that our educators look forward to working very closely to all the parents, to all the PSG members. I want to also give a shout out to all of you for your proactive involvement in the lives of the children in partnership with all our schools.
Thank you, Minister. In the final minutes, I know time is running out. I would just want to invite all the panelists to perhaps give a final encouragement to all who are tuning in. Yeah, what are some of your final encouragement to fathers and mothers? If I could invite Azhar first. Yeah.
Sure. Thanks for that. I mean, we all know that the June holidays is coming, and my words of encouragement is to start playing with the kids. And you don't need fancy equipment. I showed you earlier, how you can make paper balls at home, and it can be in the form of art and craft, right? You don't like the design, you just take a masking tape, tape it over, and then you can do something else, right? So that can be fun activities. And you can put, these are paper plate, put chopstick behind, and it can be like a racket. And you got many other things like balloon that you can have at home. So I think start playing with the kids. Know that you can indeed be very good first coaches of your children. Whether you are trained or not trained doesn't matter. I saw in Facebook one of the parents saying that we are all in training, right? Our parents in training, or my first coaches in training. So you will never know what will happen if you don't try. So explore, experiment, discover with your kids, and just engage in play and have fun.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Charmaine?
Wow, so I think, a lot of times in Singapore, we hold ourselves to very high standards as parents, and we often get very anxious about, oh, how much is too much, how little is too little. So my encouragement would be that, remember that you guys are also learning. A lot of these things that we experience with our children, we are also experiencing for the first time with them. So I think it's important to give ourselves a break and recognize that we are also in this process, to be understanding and compassionate with ourselves, especially now that things are so different and we're getting grips to a new way of life. I think that's just so important. Yes, that we want to get things right for our kids, but we are also learning as well.
Thank you, Charmaine. Kelvin?
I think the important thing to realize is that there is no KPI involved when it comes to playing with your kids. So you don't need to say say that, oh, just because you play for 1 hour you have to study for 1 hour, or just because other kids they can cycle for 20 km, then we can't. So there's no need for comparison. There's no KPI. You know your kids best. You know what your kids like, and you just go with the flow, with according to what they like, and just do what they enjoy doing. And I think everything will come naturally.
Thank you, Calvin. Minister, yeah, I'm sure you have heard all the panelists' conversations, and what would be your final thoughts and encouragement for all the fathers and mothers tuning in?
Well, first of all, I want to thank organizers, That's for Life, and Center for Fathering for organizing this very interesting, very important discussion. I want to say that we are all in this together. Whether we're educators, the teachers in schools, parents, we're all in this together. What are we in? We are in this together because we want the best for our children. And I think that's the most important thing. And we are partners together trying to raise your kids. So I hope that the partnership can continue to be strengthened. My words of advice to all parents out there: it is a learning journey for all of us. I've been a parent for the last 26 years. There are ups and downs. There are things that you learn through trial and error. There are things that you learn from books. There are things that you learn from fellow parents. But the most important thing is we never stop learning being a parent. And even today, when my kids are young adults, I am still learning how to parent them. I'm still learning how to engage young adult children in order to make sure that the relationship that we build continues to remain strong, the trust that we have with our children continues to remain strong. At the same time, they also grow up to be young adults, growing up to be adults who can subsequently be parents that we can be proud of. So I think these are important aspects of learning. I'm glad that today we focus on play, because a lot of times when we talk about engaging parents from MOE's perspective, it's about exams, it's about PSLE, it's about all the very tough things. But today we're talking about something which is lighthearted nonetheless, if not any less important, which is really to see how children can continue to grow in the different aspects of their lives through play. So thank you so much to the organizers for having us on this panel to discuss very important aspects, and I encourage all the parents out there to continue to engage each other, engage the schools, so that we can give the best to all our children. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister, for being with us this morning. And I know many fathers and mothers now are ready to go and play, right? And some of the panelists actually share some really good tips. So if I could invite perhaps Azhar, I think there were some slides that you shared with good ideas, some of the programs. If I could ask the team to help flesh out those slides, and if Azhar could help us to, I think they are taking notes already. What should I do after this session, right? So what would be some of the things that you would recommend?
Yeah, so there are lots of videos in there, video resources, particularly on our YouTube channel. We have a playlist that's called My First Coach, so you can have many resources there. And I already shared with you all the arts and craft that you can do at home. Even take your sock. Daddy's all got long socks for football, right? You can roll it into a ball, and it's friendly because if it hit you, it's not so painful, but it's just a piece of roll-out sock. So there are many things that you can do, and if you check out our resources online, you will be able to find some of those additional ideas that you can do with your kids. Yeah.
Thank you. Can PSG leaders, for example, gather parents and then sign up for programs together? Are there
Yeah,
any?
sure. So the My First Coach program is something that we have been in touch with a number of schools, and they want to offer it to their parents. our parent support group. So just connect with us. I think after this we can leave. I can leave my email on the Facebook, and of course with Dads for Life. And feel free to connect with me, and me and my team will be more than happy to run programs for schools, for PSG, for anybody for that matter.
Thank you so much. And Kelvin, if I could ask you, I know that this beautiful slide that you go on the different heights. What are some of the things that fathers or mothers need to do in order to go for those hikes? Are they like NParks? Do we need to register or get permission to go into those places? It looks like some places are a little bit scary, maybe.
Oh, no. Actually, they don't need any permission to go to those trails because they are all public areas. I mean, obviously, there are certain areas where if they are out of bounds because of some areas are live firing areas as well. So there'll be signs. So as long as you see the signs, you don't wander beyond that sign, you're fine. So all these areas that I brought my kids to, they are perfectly fine. But I think for first-time parents who wants to try a bit of trail with their kids, I think the best way is to go to the Tampines Eco Park, because that Tampines Eco Park is under NParks, and that one is kept deliberately rustic. There isn't any concrete pavement. Everything is just like soil and earth. So I think that makes for a good first time trail experience with the family. And actually pre the phase 2 hike alert, I was actually organizing hikes for families as well. They can sign up via my Facebook page. So I actually organized about 3 hikes, and I don't charge anything. Just that I request them to donate a nominal fee to a charity of their choice. That's all. So after this everything blows away, if we go back to phase 3, then I'll organize some more again, definitely. And parents who wants to join their kids, they are free to do so.
So good. So we must all follow you and keep a lookout. When things are more relaxed, we should all go on hikes. Thank you so much, Minister and panelists, for sharing your insights and your wisdom with us. And before we go, I just wanted to summarize our conversation this morning. I think we have heard about the various benefits of play, how even when fathers and mothers might disagree, we want to put a united front, and so that our children can have consistency. And we can continue to play with our children despite our busyness. I think finding that energy, finding that priority to engage our children builds the relationship that will go a long way for us to help them to journey through life. So thank you very much. And for all the fathers here, Father's Day is coming. So I want to wish all the fathers an early happy Father's Day. And actually in the month of June, there's going to be a Celebrating Fathers campaign in the entire month of June. There would be registration details that you would be able to see, everyone would be able to see on radio, on TV, social media. There would be special deals, different virtual activities that we can take part in. You can also register for goodie bags. Goodie bags would be given to and sent to you with support of MediaCorp and other sponsors. And so look out for a very exciting time in June. Okay, yeah, Celebrating Fathers is our yearly campaign to celebrate the role of fathers. And so don't worry about, June is going to be very bored, we can't go out, because there are going to be very exciting stuff happening. And also, last but not least, I mentioned earlier that there are workshops available to you. There is the ICANN workshops as well as workshops for both fathers and mothers. The ICANN workshop is for fathers, whereas the parenting workshops for the growing years as well as the teenage years, they are open to both fathers and mothers. And so after the live stream ends, my colleague will put the promo code, okay, to thank you for staying for this conversation and engaging. Thank you so much for those who take time to share their comments and their thoughts, liking each other's posts. And after the session ends this morning, feel free to share the link of our conversation, the forum today. Share it with your friends, with your parent support group. Technology has enabled us to actually expand our learning. So even if they can't join us this morning, feel free to share the link with them, and they can get all the lobangs, the networks, and the deals. Yeah. So on screen, screen now, you see if you want to find out more about what these workshops are, click on the link or scan the QR code. You would be able to find out more and rally more fathers and mothers to come alongside, and let's build ourselves up so that we can support our children even better through these very complex times that we are in, and get into community with fathers and mothers, and let's journey together to emerge stronger. So thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in this morning. It is a great pleasure. Once again, Minister, it's such an honor for us to be able to have a conversation like this. Thank you so much. And thank you, Kevin, Azza, and Shamin as well. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. So stay safe, have a great weekend, and enjoy the school holidays coming up, okay? Go and play. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you so much. Have a good weekend and stay safe. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.